Hello and welcome to a very, 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 very special edition of the Alternative Sports Show. I'm here, it's still in a bunker. I don't know what day it is now, 3,784. I'm stuck here, but you know what? I've got some good friends to be able to accompany me on this journey of NFL, looking through the all the goods and bads and uglies of NFL, fantasy football, so forth. Anyway, before I keep on rambling on, I'm here with Daniel Frelund. How are you?
I'm good. But, enough about me. We've got a special guest on and we're really excited. So we could just go on and talk about her. Like, we don't need to talk about me. I almost
bypassed Daniel. I'm here. We are here with the amazing Cynthia Frelund. How are you?
I don't have as many jerseys behind me as you, but I feel like I actually tried to look for, so I grew up in Luxembourg. I spent my elementary school in Luxembourg, and I was a big, you have a lot of you got a Kobe, you got a Jordan, I see behind you. I was a Ryan Giggs fan growing up. So,
Man United fan. Oh, yeah. It was made in heaven.
American living abroad. Of course, I'm Manchester United. It's like when people from Europe live in America, they're all Yankees fans. It's just what happens, right? I wish I need to find my Giggsy jersey because I really liked him because he had a wife named Cynthia. And of course, when you're little, those are the types of things.
Yeah.
Cynthia, I thought we were friends and the world knows that I'm the biggest Liverpool fan. And you know how much we hate Manchester United. We've just started our friendship.
Jersey and it may have tipped me off, but it's just, this is how I like to start.
I'm saying right now is, Cynthia, you're getting a jersey from me from United. I am shipping you over a United jersey. Don't worry about that. We're getting you one.
It's just painful. It's just painful that someone you respect and love so much is wearing that horrible piece of cloth.
You need to stop it. Stop it.
So Cynthia, obviously you've had a crazy busy season. It's been the weirdest season ever. If anything, for me, it's been one of the best seasons football wise. I've really enjoyed this season. But first of all, what was the season like for you? And then also, what was the Super Bowl like? From your hologram covering as well as. Come on now, well, different levels.
The real question is are you talking to me or are you talking to my hologram? Because I don't know where she went. I can't find her. So maybe she'll be back. I'm not entirely sure. But it's a little interesting. So at the end of the day, this season was really interesting. So I grew up a football fan. I'm from Michigan. So you have your Packers thing on. I'm a Lions fan. I don't know if that being a Lions fan is a real thing, but whatever. At the end of the day, I really got a chance to really reappreciate and have a different level of gratitude for not only my job, but the fact that how great is it that the worst thing that can happen is the Packers play the Lions and one of us has a team that loses, right? That's such a great problem to have considering everything else. So this whole season just made me really remember and reaffirm it. Kind of brought me back to being a little girl watching football with my dad and just loving the sport. Cause this year it could have gone, I'm so shocked we had all the games. It could have gone so many different ways and just overwhelmed with gratitude that we had Wednesday football, it was nuts, right?
Come on. Yeah.
So many cool things. I don't know. So this season, I think it's a little Pollyanna of me to be oh, I just love it. Right. But I just really felt grateful for all of it. And the Super Bowl, this is the first one since I came to the NFL Network that I wasn't in the actual stadium. But, this year with all the logistics and everything, it was interesting. And I got to be a hologram, which was, living my childhood Star Wars dream out, to be Princess Leia, right? Pretty cool. It was really neat. Or Tupac, maybe both. I'm not sure. But West Coast is the best coast, just in case anyone was wondering. But at the end of the day, it was really, what a season, what a special year. It just reminded me how lucky I am for my job and the space we're in. And we just get to talk about something that really just makes people happy. What is there to complain about? Nothing, right? Life is good.
Of course.
So much gratitude.
So you mentioned obviously getting into football, obviously watching football with your dad and obviously being from sort of the Midwest and obviously the big football culture there. But what made you actually go into the NFL? Because you love football, but there's a difference from loving football and then going actually into the sport.
Yeah, I would say to some people, be careful, don't always make your hobby your job, because then you kind of lose, like, I'm not really a fan anymore. Like I'm a fan of every, like, it's just weird, right? It just totally changes it. I'm sure you guys can speak to that as well. But the interesting part about all of it is, I went in there because in 2008, I was in business school and I was looking for a summer internship, and I have a finance background. So I was like, where do the smart people kind of go and do weird things? Because I don't want to be normal. And I'd always loved football. I grew up in East Lansing, Michigan, the home of Michigan State Spartans. And so I've been around football culture forever. Actually, Nick Saban was coaching there when I was growing up. So, it was a special time, it was extra special time, right? Like Nick Saban special, right? So, I went, and Anthony Noto, who was the CFO at the time, he had been at Goldman Sachs. He's like this super smart man. He was there. I cold emailed him and got a job in finance at the NFL. So that's kind of how I started to work from the league office back in 2008. And then I fell in love with watching film with coaches. So one of the things I was working on in finance was to do a season inventory restructuring thing. So essentially it was 16-4 or 17-3. What's the optimal configuration for games and preseason games to make the most money, given the TV contracts and the way all the revenue work? And by the way, how do we keep it fair from the standpoint of parity makes, the NFL fun, because any team could conceivably go from worst to first in their division, right? Yeah. So I was working on those things. I got a chance to connect with some coaches and players that are Hall of Fame level on the competition committee. And there's nothing that's more fun than watching in the dark, watching someone talk about something they love as much as coaches love film. You swear, you get to eat snacks. Like, what is there not to like about this? It's fantastic, right? So I started doing financial modeling around that project. And then it led me down a path to learn how to write computer code. And that computer code allowed me to apply this in different ways. At the same time, I got another degree in data science. At the same time, Paul DePodesta, like the whole Moneyball thing was happening. And then it all kind of came to fruition. I made a journey to ESPN or to Disney corporate, and then to ESPN. And, all that stuff sort of happened at the same time. And I put myself in the space of being like in data, in technology, and sports and media all kind of at the same time. And then Paul DePodesta gets hired by the Browns, and DraftKings goes on ESPN, and then I'm suddenly find myself on TV. I don't really know.
I've seen you, your growth, especially obviously from over here.
I was so bad at first.
No way.
No,
I'm a math person. It's all good. I've worked on it. I've gotten better. Not like but you gotta this isn't something you're always good at. Like, I was never scared of the camera. I didn't have like that, but to effectively communicate about math is like.
So what did you do like many tries? Did you have like many tries to do it, or did you just?
Oh, hell no.
Chill? Oh, damn.
First time out of the block, 6 p.m. SportsCenter.
Okay.
Nothing like jumping in with 2 feet.
Wait a minute, hold a second. They just threw you on SportsCenter straight away.
Yeah, because DraftKings has paid for, this is how TV works, right?
Right.
If they pay for a sponsorship, you must make it happen. Mama likes money. The mouse likes money. So they needed someone to do it, and they tried to get the anchors to do it. It just was inauthentic, but I really loved it. So the one reason I got a chance to be on TV was because I loved it. And it's genuine. My authentic love for talking about the math around sports. That's what allowed my being different and being there at the time when that became something people wanted to put on TV. Like, it was lucky, but also I really loved it. So the authenticity of really loving it, that was the only reason they gave me the opportunity, right? Because I truly did love it. It's nerdy as hell, but I love it.
You know what? It's so weird because you do it in such a subtle way. You're not it's not like overkill. Like, all right, what's this? Like, what is it? We in math class here? Like, the way you do it is very relevant to actually the subject we're speaking about.
Well, thanks. I work hard on that because I can
you got it.
I can real nerdy.
Really? Well, you're talking to two people that know nothing about math in any
way. Say that for yourself, mate. I was like a junior champ for maths in the UK, okay, at 11. So maths has always been my forte. I just didn't do it I decided to do history, but I mean, I did maths as in high level, A-level maths.
Well, I mean, one of the things I noticed, about you, first of all, obviously, you were from my point of view, one of the most prominent females on NFL, and you were one of the trailblazers. I would say personally one of them. And obviously it's yourself, Kay Adams, and Joy Taylor. Like you guys are the people that you are my go-tos when it comes to anything to do with football. Full stop. Like, forget the men. They don't know.
Forget the men.
Forget about them. So I mean, like, obviously, I've seen a rise in women in the NFL coverage. What's that been like, and what's your journey and the trials and tribulations of your journey in that?
Well, the interesting part is there are so many women like that have like I think about Linda Cohn, I think about Amy Trask, I think about these OGs who like an Andrea Kramer who've like had to like go through some real tough stuff to get to where we are today. It's not super easy because people look, I'm like 5'6", like they know I never played football, right? So there's a little bit of that like inherent, like, what does she know about football? And having, and then by the way, I also talk about something that's not like the sexiest part of it. Fantasy is pretty fun, but like, the other parts aren't quite as sexy as, as some of the other people. And I'm not a host. I don't host a show, like the different roles, right? I'm not a reporter. I'm not a host. I'm not any of those things. Right. So at the end of the day, it's mostly about like having the space to tell your story. Like it's my job to tell the story well and to articulate why this matters and what's the story and how you can look at it from this perspective. But there's so many other people involved that create the space for you, that validate that telling that story is something that people give a crap about, that, that like you talk about, like, it's so weird. I never in my life would think that like Michael Irvin would be like, we want to talk more about math, right? Like, but you earn that by the reps. You earn that by like showing up to the meetings, the stuff you don't see on TV, right? We have production meetings for several hours. I mean, we have a 4-hour show every Sunday morning. And the compliment it is when my coworkers are like, we want more of that, like Mooch and Kurt Warner and Michael Irvin and, Rich Eisen, like just being supportive of me. Like, what else can we do? Like, let's, again, you have to put in the work, but you also have to find the good people who are going to take all of the things that you're doing and be like, we don't give a crap that she's a woman or not. Like, she has something great. People want more fantasy about it. Like, who cares if she's like, I'm glad she's different from us, right? Like, it stands out as being, not just like all the boys like hanging out, so it's really about finding that niche of people. And by the way, there are people who hate me, like, I hear it, Twitter. My mentions are hilarious. Like, sometimes it's a scary place, right? Like, to be like, you don't know anything about football, like you don't, and I'm like, okay, like that's your problem, buddy. Like,
I'm sure you know more than them. In all ways. I'm very, very sure of that.
I guess I just don't need to tell them that. Like, if they don't think so, like, and if they want to tweet, like, okay, like, thanks for watching. I don't know. You just got to kind of get over it, I guess. But
so all people that are watching this who've said anything about Cynthia has had a hologram in the Super Bowl. You haven't. So please, Leo.
If you see my hologram, please send her home. She's been missing.
I still can't get over that.
Mail her back to California.
I mean, one thing I know for a fact is obviously NFL in the UK is growing. It's a massive sport. But what I know from a lot of speaking to people in the UK is your work and what you do is actually is highly valued for a lot of people, particularly on the fantasy side of things. But just overall, I mean, I just want to make you aware of that. Like, obviously, you've got a big following in the UK. It's only going to
I'm gonna come back. Listen, I miss traveling. This whole not being able to leave the country is like really, really not cool. My sister lives in Denmark. Like, these are things that are very difficult. Like, they're whatever. But I'll come back. Like, we'll have we can have a draft party. We can figure something fun out. Like, I love the UK. Like, you
and
name
United
it,
games. And I'll be taking you to United games. Don't worry about that. Man United there. It'll be there. But we are going to move into in terms of from your NFL. Obviously, you talked about obviously loving NFLs across the board. But what's been your sort of, I guess, your favorite moment or experience in the NFL, and also what's been your favorite individual character, whether that's a coach or a player?
Like being on the field. So my first Super Bowl at the NFL Network was the Houston Super Bowl, which happened to be a pretty good game, the Atlanta one. Yeah. Just a good one. But you get there, our show's 8.5 hours that day. So you get there at like 6 a.m. and no one's there. And like, I got a chance to walk down on the field and I was like, holy crap. Like, people are like, sweeping this, like everyone, like there's such care taken and the air is special. And like, no one was even there yet. Like, you know, I think actually I did see Coach Dan Quinn was there. He was walking the field there, but you know, you're standing there and they're testing out all the different things that and it's just, and it's so quiet and it's a peaceful moment. And I'm like, I'm from Okemos, Michigan, and I don't know like, how did I end up here? Like, I don't deserve to be here. Like, what, this is so special. Like, this is like crazy, like special moment. And you're like, like, okay. And, you know, Steve Mariucci came out, Coach Mooch, and he is always from Michigan too. And I was like, and I had like these tears in my eyes because I was just like, this is so special. Like, I'm so like happy. Thank you. Like, and I was like, Coach was like, I don't know if I deserve to be here. He like put his arm around me and he's like, what the hell are you talking about? He's like, tape your ankles. It's game day. You deserve to be here. And I was like, it was dusty in there for quite some time, but no, it's like that special moment. Like, you know, I'm not a Falcons or a Patriots fan, you know, like it wasn't a fan moment. It was a like, this is special. Like I worked, you know, hard and, you know, it's just interesting. But, you know, at the end of the day, that was really special. I also really love the combine. So maybe my favorite moment, and I don't usually tell the story in the States because it kind of makes people look bad, but whatever.
Go. Tell us.
It's the last moment when these guys are still kids and it's a long week. So we don't have it this year, but you know, typically it's several days long. They come in, they have you know, they have a schedule, and it's a rigorous schedule from the standpoint of like, there's a lot of interviews, there's a lot being asked of them. The drills you see on field are just like one small part of it, right? They get a lot of like, it's a lot of poking and prodding. And it's the last time you see these guys who are now I see them and they're like, you know, a little cocky, you know, they got the swagger, they've got a bunch of money and whatever, like, and I'm happy for them, but you know, you see them and maybe they're disappointed with their 40 time, or maybe they're overwhelmed by like all of the different things going on. And we get a chance to be on the field with them. And, you know, I feel bad saying that, but, you know, I got a chance, and some of them have really overbearing parents who are there too. Like there's just a lot. It's a, you know, I feel bad. They're still kids at this point, right? Like they can be jerks and they can have been coddled or whatever, but at some point they're still like somebody's son or brother or like friend or whatever. Like they're not like, you know, they haven't made the money yet. They're still like, and they're nervous and they're scared. So a couple of years ago, I still feel a little bad. After a disappointing kind of injured, like he didn't run his best, but the running back from Alabama, Damian Harris, who's now a Patriot, this is a couple of years ago, he was a little, I'm not gonna say like it might have been a little misty in there. He had a moment, and it was so pure and special, and I like felt compelled. This is way before COVID, obviously. Like I like gave him this hug, like I'm his mom, but like I'm like, it's okay, buddy. But I felt like I got it right. Like, you know, you just remember we're all human and we're all scared at times, and like we're all just starting on this career and and we don't know what's gonna happen. You know, none of us did. It was like it was just very pure moment. He was the nicest kid, like just a nice human being, a nice, like you could just tell he's a good kid. Like, I just want to be like, you're okay, buddy. Like, and I literally did. So, and that is not the first time, you know, they call, you know, it's the last time they're really nice. So I think the combine's probably my favorite, like special moment, because, you know, then they turn into aliens until they're like 5 years out of the league. Then they're nice again.
Okay. Because it's the last time that they've actually just been effectively regular person. I mean, I know they're famous on their campus, and you know, some of them can't even walk around the city. So, you know, but it's a night and day different to when they become big time.
Give you a hug.
You know what's so exciting to me and refreshing to me? The fact that you've been doing this for a while and at a high level, and you still are excited, and you still are humble, and you still recognize like you're privileged to be where you are. There's so many.
Job. I have a fake job.
Thank you.
I'm a hologram. Like they're gonna get me onto me one of these days, and I'm not gonna be able to do it. So here I'm gonna be like.
We always tell the team that we have is like, you know, you do realize that this is normal work. Like, you know, I sold insurance for almost 8 years with the script, and I had to go through 300 calls. Like that is I did that until I was 30 before I started up my own company. And
Exactly.
and thank God it's got where we are now. But like it's not real, when we go on the field and I get really excited, I always get annoyed when I see people being like kind of blasé, or if you go in the press bit and then they're giving you free food on top of that as well. Yes, they do give you free food, people. Like anyone trying to get into media, that's what you get. You get free food, you get magazines, you get the best view, you got a screen on top of your desk and all that stuff. Is really, really nice. But I refuse to get used to that, because it's something that is privilege and people work really hard to be able to get that. And you think you lose your edge. I don't know if you agree on that. You lose your edge if you start becoming a bit blasé about that.
To me, it's always about like I want to be enjoying my life, right? Like I don't, if I'm not happy for like where I ended up, like, then I'm probably doing the wrong thing, right? Like if you can't like enjoy the free food, you can't enjoy the, like all the things that you mentioned, the good seats or the screen or the extra things, like the little thing, like these details, that's your whole life. Like that's what you get to choose to be grateful for. So if you choose that you're going to be grateful for those things, then the rest of it, you're going to have to work hard. I really think about this a lot, right? I'm not belittling the fact that I work really hard, but I'm also not like taking for granted any moment of it, because there's an element of luck and timing and fortunate, but you have to put yourself in the position to get there in order to realize it. But also when you have an opportunity to be treated well and see these things that matter to you, like you just got to sit there and be like, this is so great. Like I'm so grateful for these. I never want it to be that any of these small things aren't special, because then I'm doing the wrong thing. Like it's time to go do a different thing. Like you only get one shot at today, and like very, again, I'm a little too Pollyanna about this, but you only get one day today, right? So like, why would I not want to enjoy all of the things that happen? Like I said, this year especially, we've noticed it being locked down and confined. Like what I wouldn't give to have like a bag of Doritos. I don't even like Doritos, but like a bag of Doritos, like at a stadium, right? Like, like that would be so great. Like to be around people who I think are awesome and doing things that make people happy and make people better. So, those are the type of thing I think about that all the time. Like if I'm not happy doing it, like what the heck am I doing then? This is my life.
No, definitely. No, definitely. Yeah, no, I think sometimes some people don't necessarily understand like the quintessential, just the joy of the job is just being able to, talk to people like yourselves, talk to people, the athletes, the coaches, just being able to just be in that position, getting the free chips, getting the free meals. And for me, I just enjoy every moment of it, because I understand like it's something that I love. I love NFL. I love American football, and just being able to do it on a regular basis is great. So for me, I always see it as blessed, to be fair. Cynthia, in terms of NFL season, it's been a very interesting NFL season, and we've probably seen a lot more QBs come out recently in terms of wanting to move. And I mean like franchise QBs. Like, why do you think that is? And then also on top of that, like, who's your favorite sort of QB right now in terms of in that circle that wants to move, and where do you want them to be or end up being?
Well, I'm going to answer the questions in the reverse order, because I really love Deshaun Watson and I really want him out of Houston. So Deshaun to me is like such a special athlete. I spent a lot of time this past offseason measuring off-platform throws. So okay, not the horizontal one we saw Patrick Mahomes do in the Super Bowl, but imagine when your feet aren't perfectly set. You want your base to be set, your hips to be set, because that provides you the best opportunity to get power with your throw. That's kind of how that maps out, right? So when you look at who's great at off-platform throwing, that's the wave of the future. There aren't going to be any true pocket passers, like, or at least not like total career true pocket passers like Tom Brady anymore, because the way colleges are, developing and cultivating players, just doesn't do that anymore. So the ability to throw on the run, the ability to throw when your feet aren't set, like Deshaun's so much fun. He's almost as good as Patrick at it. By the way, Josh Allen's also very good at it, but I just think Deshaun is such a special athlete and such a great, like, he's one of those kids who I got a chance to meet when he was at the combine too. And he's just a nice kid that I root for. So I would like to end up in a place that's healthier. I think Houston's a total train wreck. And I think mentally it's bad for a person to be in that situation. I think to go to a healthier organization. then, as far as like what the quarterback's presumable this year, the cap will go down for the first time we've ever experienced. They're easing that by doing it over a 2-year time period instead of just one. So it won't be so dramatic, but these cap hits means there'll be cap casualties. So the ability to retain the good players who have contracts that could be too expensive, it's going to kind of reset the market at a lot of positions, not necessarily quarterback, because unfortunately for teams, quarterbacks not getting anything, but they'll restructure contracts, but the price won't go down on a per year basis. So quarterbacks are really now, it kind of like in the NBA, they have a bit more of that leverage to say, well, I don't want to play in this situation because you guys need to restructure me anyways. So the leverage changes to be something that's a little bit less team restrictive and a little bit more player friendly. So essentially like Carson Wentz right now is a mess because they're asking for too much to trade him because that they wrote a bad contract for him. And then unfortunately the Jared Goff situation moving from the Rams to the Lions, he has a bad contract too. And the Lions just took that on. That's a whole nother podcast, but it was an interesting move. It was an interesting move from the standpoint of it doesn't give them a lot of leverage, so I would call that irrational because I'm a banker. So, it was an irrational thing to do. So, ultimately there's a lot of things that like a lot of these dominoes could fall right now. I believe like as at the moment we're taping this, that the Colts have pretty much all of the bargaining chips. They have the best O-line. They've got a giant ability to spend with their cap. They've got flexibility in many positions. So they're and they have a very favorable situation. They're not going to take Deshaun Watson because he's in their same division, but they're rumored suitors for Carson Wentz, Kirk Cousins, Matt Ryan, anyone. So they hold a lot of cachet right now. Once that starts netting out, then I think a lot of the other dominoes will fall. I think we could see up to 10 quarterbacks be in different places. We've already seen 2, right? So that would mean 8 more. So I think we could see that, but we're declining this. Sorry. But yeah. So at the end of the day, I think that the quarterback market could be very fluid. It could also be very boring. Like it will really depend on a few of these key things. Like I do think they deal Deshaun. I don't know where. To me, a logical landing spot could probably be the Carolina Panthers. Speaking of your Christian McCaffrey situation, but that could be one. But and people keep asking me, do I think it's worth mortgaging your future for Deshaun? And I guess the question would be like, well, what are the terms of the mortgage? Because you need to know that, like, what would you have to give up? But for the most part, get this year, especially considering how many unknowns there are with the free agent and draft marketplace, you can't interview people like normal. You can't test them out like normal. We have a lot of weird information on this draft class because they didn't have normal college seasons. With all of those things in flux, take the known quantity at the most important position in sports. Like, yes. So
I mean, Cynthia, you said everything perfectly, and I've agreed with you on most things, especially because you're a fellow United fan, and I actually love your work. But I will disagree with you on the Panthers. I would like to see Deshaun Watson at Miami. I think they are a quarterback. I think they're a quarterback away from being a real dominant force. Their defense is really good. I like the head coach. I like the GM in Chris Greer. So I think they've got a great solid foundation to build around Deshaun for years to come. What do you make on that one?
So there's a couple reasons why I love that. Well, number one, I went to college with B-Flow, so we went. Brian Flores, the head coach.
All right.
So I've known him for a while. He is the real deal. He's the best. Like when I say he's the best, I'm not like, it's not hyperbole. He is a great human. He's a great dad. He's a man. Like he's like a great man that you're like, I get behind this person. So you're spot on there. I would love to see Deshaun there. I hate their O-line, but they can fix that this offseason. There's some opportunities there. My sense is that I think they want to fortify the front of their defense a little bit more. And I think they're a bit afraid to. It's hard to trade off of Tua after mortgaging some stuff for him last year. So the hard part there is, look, sunk cost, it's a sunk cost fallacy. They shouldn't, but again, it's not insider info. I would love to see it. Like if I'm playing quarterback roulette and I get to put anyone wherever I want. Yes, I would put him there, or I actually would love him in Washington with Ron Rivera. Like there's some goodness there too, but I'm just saying based on moves, like you see the Panthers unloading a bunch of contract situations and they have some great draft capital. So you just see them making the chamber ready. Right. And that's just more and that one would make sense, like logistically from a NFC to, AFC to NFC kind of situation. It's not my preference. It's just, what I
a more logical point. Yeah. And I see my preference is definitely Miami. I'm rooting for Miami.
Oh yeah.
So
I love the Miami colors like that. Like if I had to pick a team based on colors alone, it would definitely be the Dolphins. Cause it's just, and I love that old helmet with a dolphin wearing the old helmet. I like that.
They'll be very happy. Like, before the start of last season, we got to go on a nice little tour around the the new Hard Rock now, and it was amazing the optimism that they had going into a season where normally it's just like, we're trying to get people to have season tickets, and it's just like, okay, well, now there's a queue, now there's a line, so it's quite exciting for us to be. Just before we move on to my fantasy, inside information from you, I wanted to ask, like, what is your favorite highlight if you had to pick one? I know there's lots of things to be able to choose from. Mine was Buda Baker running away from DK Metcalf, like literally, because the memes they used that for the election as well, which was even better. That was great. So, what was your personal highlight of the season if you had to choose one?
Ooh.
Tough question.
That's a really tough question. I mean, immediately like that, like DeAndre Hopkins insane touchdown comes to mind. That one against the Bills, like that was astounding.
That was one.
That was nasty. I'm also, and I love the Buda Baker stuff too. I also like that, like anytime Derrick Henry would just like push people over. Like I could watch a highlight reel of just like Derrick Henry, like, like on repeat all day long. So that kind of comes to mind too. I mean, and I also could watch, I could watch a highlight reel of Josh Allen this year, just making stupid like throws, like where are you? We are running this direction. And you just somehow hit Stephon Diggs on a go for like 1 billion yards. Like I could watch that too. I loved all of that this season. So those were kind of my like my Josh Allen, my Derrick Henry, but I DeAndre Hopkins, that touchdown, if I had to have just the one, because there were some pretty good memes about that one too.
Yeah.
That one was good. And I love Buda Baker. That guy's I say this in love. He's a psychopath. Like, like watching him on the field, you're like, what are you doing? You're like insane. But in all the lovingest, the truly
in a great way,
loving meaning of that phrase.
He literally came out of nowhere. I remember watching that match and just being like where, he's oh God, he's gonna, because I had DK Metcalf in my team, so I was just like, that pass was supposed to go to him, and I was like, oh God, like, and by the time I put my head back, I saw Buda Baker running for the touchdown. I was like, oh, and then and literally again, you're like, wait a minute, this is the most magnificent thing I've seen. Actually, Josh Allen doesn't get enough credit for his summoners when he literally pushed someone down from I think it's a Dolphins game where he threw someone down to be able to get like a few more yards. Like, he's ridiculous.
I love a good stiff arm because I could never do it. I'm so I could never push it.
Oh, when you come back over, Dan, we'll get you to do that to Dan.
You do know I'm 6'3", right?
Which will make it even more impressive.
And I used to play football. I'm just saying, I'm 6'3" and I used to play football. So just put it out there.
Nah, listen, we're gonna tighten this Cynthia stiff arm. That's what's gonna happen.
Stiff arm someone just once in my life, and like, I was little. Like I played soccer growing up. These girls would push me around. I'd be like, didn't happen.
Oh, actually, you know what? Actually, before we go into the fantasy thing, another thing that came to my mind. I saw something on your Instagram that blew my mind. Now, I love football. I'm a big Liverpool fan. Unfortunately for you, you are a Manchester United fan.
Not unfortunately.
Corrosive influence by this one here. But I saw you do a flick up. I like, please, like, we're gonna insert this in so people can see.
Yeah.
Did you actually play?
Yeah, no, I played for a long. I loved soccer. Like, soccer's my first love. Like, played soccer and volleyball growing up, football and volleyball growing up, And I was little. And so I had to be better with my footwork than everyone else because I was tiny and I got pushed around a lot. So I had to have moves.
That's just not a normal move. Like that, that was ridiculous. I was in shock. I remember when we, you said you're going to come on. I was just like, oh, let me have a look. And it's the same day you posted that. And I was like, I have got to ask her about that one. That's for sure.
Well, I had to also show off because that was in a Nike shoot I was asked to do for Nike announced like a women's flag football initiative. Katie Sowers is in that video with me. She was the first female coach to go to a Super Bowl. She was with the 49ers last year. And last 2 or 3 years she was there. So we were in the video together. I'm like, I'm going to impress coach because when else can I impress a coach?
Yeah.
Like, so she caught my rainbow.
That was like, honestly, that was props for that.
That was skills because I can't do that, and I've played soccer for so long, so I would struggle to do that for American football. So and that was impressive. I'm not gonna lie.
I've got like weird tricks. Like I had, you evolve, right? You have to survival of the fittest. I had to do something. Otherwise I wasn't going to be able to play ever again.
Well, the next time you're on the field, please, can you just repeat that for us the next time you go on the field? Because that was full utter respect for that. Honestly, that was amazing.
I've got a good, like, my throw in, like my jump. I've got some other tricks up my sleeve.
You want another trick? All right. Please can you bring your stories and tag us in, please.
Of, like, 7th grade soccer. Harlem Globetrotters of women's 7th grade soccer.
I was like, where did this come from? Right. So Cynthia, I'm gonna. Well, you're even more impressive for me at fantasy football. You literally guided me through until I came head to head with this guy here.
To me, and he lost to me. Just went out there.
It was a disappointing week.
It happens.
Where, everyone gets lucky once. But what? So tell me, like, fantasy football. Like, how did you evolve how did you get to love it like the way that you do? Like, you're so good at it.
Oh, thanks. So I think because when you're quantifying actual things on the actual field, it actually lends itself very well to fantasy football, and other things too that, NFL employees are not allowed to gamble. We don't know what that word means, but it also has applications to that. Just, in case anyone knew what that word meant, I don't. So at the end of the day, the way that you construct a model is you take contextualized data. So you compare apples to apples, pocket passing quarterbacks to pocket. You don't compare Lamar Jackson to Tom Brady, right? Like, so, you contextualize all of the data every snap and you put together what's most likely to happen. So it ends up being like this big Madden game, right? Like you simulate all the games and you simulate the outcomes. And basically what happens is you come up with likely ranges of numbers for players. And it has the same application as it does for people who are looking at cap analytics, meaning how much you should pay an actual human player, and fantasy football. So it actually translates the same models that you would use for real football, you can use for fantasy football. And those models, we put them on TV in a little bit more fun way. We have a good time ranking things, putting lists, putting things in ranges, things like that. So it's just a different perspective from some of the other analysts who use, different methods. So it just gives you another way to look at kind of the same thing. So you can compare the different types of analysis and figure out which one resonates with you best. And then, use it however it serves your fantasy game and your fantasy team.
So for me, because when I first joined, this was like my first year, by the way, I went all the way to the final as a rookie. So thank you for the hints.
Strong showing.
Thank you. The hints I got was that you're supposed to go for like maybe a running back first, draft a running back first, maybe then go for a wide receiver. But don't. There's no need to actually draft a quarterback first. So I mean, if you were to give sort of tips now for us UK fans, like what would you suggest? A running back first, wide receiver first. Like what would do?
So I'll tell you the same thing. My brother-in-law is Danish, and when he plays, they all want to draft the quarterback first because the quarterback does give you the most points. Yeah. It's true. But if you stack a quarterback up, quarterbacks 1 through 10, most seasons, now sometimes there's a guy who comes up way like a Lamar Jackson who just out. The range of the first quarterback and the 10th quarterback, they're not that different. So like they'll be like 10 points different for the course of the season. So the point is you want to look for the position where the variance, meaning the guy who you would pick first makes so much more than the guy you would pick 10th.
Yeah.
But because there's not a lot of difference between quarterback 1 and quarterback 10 in a regular season, then you don't really need to do that. So what there's no, if you get the 7th quarterback or the 3rd quarterback, you're not making that much different throughout the course of the season. So that's why you don't want to draft them first. What you want to do is you want to create a strategy that reflects your point scoring values. So if you're in a league where it's PPR, meaning point per reception, then you need to factor in pass catching running backs because they'll get you the most points. If you're not playing PPR, then you need to factor in kind of what is your scoring and how do you earn points? Like, is the running back, like, is it 1 point for every 10 yards that the running back gets, or is it 1 point? Like, every scoring is different. So you got to look at your scoring to create your strategy. Typically, most people play, at least that I'm aware of, play PPR. So as some version of you get an extra point every time you catch the ball. Maybe it's not a full point per reception. Maybe it's a half point, but some version of that, which by default makes a Christian McCaffrey or Saquon Barkley or a guy who really does catch a lot of balls in a season, an Alvin Kamara, for example, and Aaron Jones, makes them super valuable compared to, a guy who doesn't do that, or a guy like who's really dependent on, like each year, which receiver will be at the top. There's always going to be about 5 guys who are right up top, but those top 5 receivers, there's not a lot of variance between them, right? Sure, Stephon Diggs caught the most passes in the NFL this season, but Devontae Adams outscored him in fantasy points because of the number of touchdowns. So, but let's be honest, Diggs, Adams, like there's guys who are those top 5 guys. The difference between their points is not going to be so significantly variant compared to those pass catching running backs. So based on your point scoring situation, you probably want to value pass catching running backs first. There's probably about 5 of them that are worth being the top 5 picks. Then there could be a sprinkled in wide receiver, maybe. Sprinkled in wide receiver there. Typically look for like a slot guy. Like, so for example, I have my eye on Justin Jefferson next season. I don't know. He's not going to be my wide receiver number 1, probably. I don't know yet, but he's probably not going to be, but he's going to be up there. And so you're going to want to value him appropriately because he'll catch more passes than a guy who's like, he'll catch more passes than Julio Jones. Now, Julio Jones might have more yards, more whatever, but you got to factor that in, right? So who's their quarterback? What's the situation? But usually a slot receiver should be up there. Like Michael Thomas 2 seasons ago, most of those passes were coming from the slot. Devontae Adams actually caught a lot of passes out of the slot this season as well. So, those guys, but those top 5 guys like the Diggs, Adams, Justin Jefferson, like those guys are perennially going to be up there. DeAndre Hopkins, for example. So you can order them as you want. Like, I do math, so I can order you can look at my order if you want, but group them into mental category and then do your trade-offs. Like if you're drafting 8 and you're close to the turn, let's say you're in a 12-team league and you're close to the turn, like it doesn't really matter if you go wide receiver or running back there, depending on who's already been taken, right? Like, because you're going to pick 4 slots later. So just try to create this strategy where you're looking for the people. And look, injuries are going to happen. So what you'd like to do is to create a contingency plan. So your replacements. So when you get to the point, okay, you got your starters. And by the way, I probably I don't even get to quarterback until I've definitely exhausted my wide receivers and I've exhausted my running backs. And I've typically exhausted my tight ends. Like I don't get to quarterback till way late because you're always going to be able to like switch it around and you can stream a quarterback far more easily than you can stream like if you draft Christian McCaffrey this year and many people have and if you didn't have like a nice replacement or a situation that could get you those points, you were screwed. And so you had the first pick in the draft and then you're screwed the rest of it. So you gotta give yourself some depth at the position. And then you got to take a few flyers on some rookies, like wherever Jamar Chase goes next year, like that's a wide receiver. He's like the best one.
Alabama's wide receiver, isn't it?
He is. He's better. So 2 seasons ago, he played with Jerry Jeudy. He played, with Henry Ruggs, and he was better than both of them. He just wasn't draft eligible. So this season, now he's draft eligible. But remember, we kind of didn't have the visibility for college football as we did like usual. So people have forgotten he's rad. He's so good. So wherever he goes, he's probably worth like a late roster ad, because he'll have a breakout season, right? Yeah. So at some point, so at least steal him from your friends. That's the other thing people forget. Play defense with your roster, not right up front, but later. Like, you have however many how many bench spots you have. You should have one of those that you're screwing over one of your friends. Go take that quarterback that could be. I'm telling you, go take that, and don't do it with a kicker or a defense. Listen to me on that, but do it with like a quarterback. I love doing that. That's my favorite sneaky mean spot in my single quarterback. I'll go take the quarterback who probably is going to like be like go take the Joe Burrow like early, but people are like, whoa, should we draft him or not? Should we draft him? Sit him on my bench. I don't need him week 4. See if he's any good. I can drop him later. I don't need that bench spot, but you know who else can't get him? Anyone else in my league.
Yeah, so that's how we all lost in our little friends circle when the gentleman who will remain nameless because I'm still bitter about it. He got Justin Herbert, and that was the end of it. Like, he brought him out, and we're like, who is this guy? Like, he's just like blitzing everyone.
Trots him out. Yep.
Like, he had him and Derrick Henry. Like, that's not fair. It's just like that's like the supreme team. So, but now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna ask you like some irrational and reasonable early questions on NFL.
Great.
Like, so I'll start off, and then Dan will go after, because I'm gonna upset Dan with this one. Do you see, and is there any way that this is going to happen? Now, Giants, go and give everything that we have to get Russell Wilson wearing this. Now, is that at all possible? Can you see that happening?
Nope.
Oh.
Told you this already. He wouldn't want to go to the Giants either.
He would. He would want to go.
You don't want him.
We don't want. Who do you reckon we should have? If not roll the dice with Danny Dimes again.
Well, you get Saquon back, which is great. You need a defense. You need some help on defense, and you need a wide receiver, like maybe 3.
Yeah,
no
we
offense.
do.
I mean, I'm not a fan. So I don't think it's Daniel Jones's fault. And plus, look at your division. It's garbage. So you got a really good opportunity without having to take a flyer on a quarterback this season when things could be far more expensive and far more like. Always think about, you got 6 games in division. You think the Eagles are going to get better?
No.
I mean, I think Washington's really the one to be scared of.
Yeah.
But you think Cowboys will be better. Maybe Dak, and they'll sign Dak. I mean, I'm not worried about Dak, but if the Giants weren't as bad as it seems, like they've got some pieces on the back end of that. Love the James Bradbury free agency acquisition. I loved their draft. They need some pieces they need some wide receivers. They need to spread the field, like really inconsistent receivers. Like without Saquon there, life is very difficult. You got to decide how you want to use Evan Ingram. I know he's a tight end, but he's like not a tight end. So, he doesn't block. Like, what's your strategy? Jason Garrett will keep it manageable for Daniel Jones, or maybe they could get like a Kirk Cousins in there as a bridge. That would be a better opportunity. Like bridge the gap.
Don't laugh, Dan.
I'm telling you,
I'm listening.
A bridge is a great thing. Building a bridge is a great thing.
Yeah.
Because you want giving yourself options is a really good thing. And if maybe a guy like that could give you some options. So, you don't want to sell, you're not so bad that you need to sell out for just one quarter. And it wouldn't be Russell Wilson if that's not the right one either.
Of course. He's
a Seahawks fan, so he doesn't want this to happen.
Let's just ignore this terrible question that you
asked. I'm going to
asked.
throw the ball to.
I'm going to go with a hard question for you. Who do you think, because obviously we've had the carousel of just head coaches, some shocking press conferences from the Lions and Eagles. I shall not mention their names. Which head coach do you think is going to be the first one to lose their job in the new season?
Well, it's not going to be Urban Meyer, that's for sure. Interesting. So I'm a little concerned. I think Cincinnati might, if they don't turn it around. I don't know. Like you just got like, look, the formula is this. There has to be the team has to be bad. They have to be, I mean, it could be Matt Nagy. Like, I hate that because I love Matt Nagy as a human being. So it's hard for me to even say that, but you have to be bad. You have to be not a first-year head coach. And there were a lot of the Lions are going to be terrible. So whatever. The Texans are going to be terrible, but you can't fire those guys because they just got there, right? Like they don't.
But look at what Arizona did.
Yeah, but like Arizona had a plan. I don't know. I just feel like there's too many people who you got to see a little bit. Yeah, you know what? I reserve the right to answer this once free agency nets out a little bit more because if you don't have a quarterback, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. And I know that Cincinnati has a quarterback, but they don't have a lot of other things. So that's the one. And he's been there long enough. But I don't know for whatever reason, like Chicago and Cincinnati come to mind to me.
See, for me, it's Chicago, and it's Chicago one because I think Matt Nagy's there, Mike Zimmer in the Vikings, or Cliff Kingsbury because he got fired at Texas Tech. I've not seen anything from him that I think he can actually coach in the NFL.
Oh, see, I think they're going to be good this year. You know why? Because they have a lot of the pieces that are what I would call known. Like they've got the quarterback that they want. They've got the best wide receiver they could get. Their defense is good. I love me some Budda Baker. I love me some Isaiah Simmons. They have some great like pieces. They almost made it to the playoffs. Like I think they're a cusp. It could go either way, but I don't think he gets fired. I don't think he gets. That organization's really cheap too. I don't know if you know this, but they're pretty cheap. They don't fire that often because they don't want to have to keep paying someone after they're gone.
Wait, so who's the cheapest organization actually? Because I've heard the Bengals can be quite cheap.
Bengals, the Chargers are pretty cheap.
Okay, but
they got lucky though. They got lucky because they got themselves a quarterback. They have got themselves a quarterback. My God.
Wait. Why do they have a quarterback? Think about it. They cleared the space for. They thought they were getting Tom Brady. They cleared much space. Then they were like, well, damn, we now need a quarterback. So then they changed course. Once they didn't get him, then they were able to bring in free agents because you have to spend up to a floor, right? You can't go over the cap, but you have to spend up to a floor. So they brought in Chris Harris Jr. They paid Joey Bosa last year. They paid Melvin Ingram. Like they paid people in that year because they had cleared so much space for Tom Brady. So they're a little lucky in the sense of like they got a good quarterback despite making all these moves that would they brought in Brian Bulaga from the Packers. They got a lot of free agents that they wouldn't have otherwise gotten. So roster wise, they're all right. But like,
they fell into that situation. just lastly,
it worked out. I like their pivot. Oh, you know who else could be fired? This one's going to be spicy.
Pete Carroll?
No. Not Pete Carroll.
I can't move any closer to the screen.
Oh, I can. Yeah. So let's like think about it like this, right? So it's possible. How bad do the Rams need to be before they clean house?
Ooh.
I know they just went to a Super Bowl, but the expectations are sky high and they brought in all these people. I'm not saying like, look, I'm never going to put someone on. Like, I love Sean McVay. I think he's a really great person. He's a great coach, but like there's a lot of, their cap could be in a bad, like that's a tricky spot to be in.
Well, I'll tell you what, we've got one of our team, squad, Hannah, who's a massive Rams fan, so that would be interesting news let me be clear,
I really like I think he's really masterfully good, but remember they had to do a lot to get Jared Goff. They moved off a lot of draft picks, and that was and then they had to pay Aaron Donald because you're not letting him leave, and then they brought in Jalen Ramsey, but now they've got to do a lot to be able to make their cap work for them now. So is Matthew Stafford going to be enough to put? I think Matthew Stafford's an underrated quarterback. I like the pieces they're giving him. The problem is what happens like holistically to that defense. You have Aaron, you have Jalen, but like you can't afford everyone. There are going to be some cap casualties that happen there too. So and I don't think he wouldn't be first. Let me be clear. It wouldn't be first, but it could be bumpy.
See, the reason why I think he might get some time is because he didn't draft Jared Goff, and so I think they were going to be like, I didn't draft him. Give me a chance to actually pick up a quarterback. He's picked Stafford, so I think they'll give him. I reckon they'll buy him 2 seasons. To be fair, I think the Stafford trade will buy him a season.
I hope so, because I actually really like Sean in the league. I think he's really good for the league from an offensive mind, and I think he's done a really good job of hiring defensive coordinators. But look, they get hired away from him, so I don't know.
You know what? I've got before we wrap, I've got this little story about Sean McVay. When he became the head coach, they came over for the first year. They came over to the UK, and so we watched their practice. We interviewed Jared Goff, and it was there with Todd Gurley and everything, all the big stars. And at that point, I knew of that they had a new head coach, but I hadn't actually seen him properly. So what was happening is that just before they had a press conference, there's a guy there's a team of coaches that were near us, and then I was just ending up just talking to them for a little while, and it must have been about 15 minutes before they said, "Oh, Sean, you got to come onto the stage now." And I realized I'd just been talking to Sean McVay for like 15, awesome. 20 minutes. And he was like the nicest person.
Oh, he's I'm a huge fan of his. I would never want his job. And, we didn't even talk about Vegas or Denver. Those could be places where Denver could go either way, right?
Yeah.
So anyways,
Vegas, they're tied in for a while. So he's going nowhere.
That's just money, though. Like if they're not selling tickets and, there's a lot of expectations in that stadium being new and getting, they got to sell tickets. So I don't know, we didn't even talk about that, but like Sean is awesome. Let me be clear. I don't want anyone.
No.
It's not it's an expectation thing based on like, you're in a new stadium. Like that stuff needs to sell out. Like there's a lot, now we have a whole year where we didn't have anyone in the stadium. The Super Bowl's in LA next year. Like they got, I don't know. We'll see how, I don't know. It's all about managing expectations, right? So
I'm not going to hold you to this one. Just the last question I've got for you. Just the most difficult one I've got for you.
All right.
Will this man win the Super Bowl next year?
No.
I know you don't want him to.
No, I
like him. I actually want him to. I might be
this is Dan.
I like that he's sassy. I like that he's kind of a jerk. Like he comes across as kind of a jerk. I love that he's hosting Jeopardy. Like I'm a Rodgers fan. Like by the way, I'm a Rodgers fan because of his skill, but I think it's funny that he doesn't act like a normal. He's not like, oh shucks, blah. He's hilarious. Like I find him like really funny. Like I think he's sassy and funny. So I want him to win a Super Bowl. Another Super Bowl. I think he deserves it. I think he's up there with those people who do. I just don't know if I trust their team to be able to draft the assets around him to be able to make that happen. Because remember, he didn't lose that game. Like his defense did. Like their defense was garbage, and they kept targeting the same guy over and over. They didn't have an answer. Like that poor guy. I'm not going to keep bringing up his name, but they're like, let's throw it to the slot. They've got no answer. And that's just what happened. And their defense was not good. And so and look who they drafted. They drafted a quarterback. I get it. They want to do it but they didn't need to trade up to get him. They didn't need to, they could have drafted several defensive backs that probably would have been able to help them. They could have drafted another wide receiver. So I don't know if I trust the people, and I love saying his name, Brian Gutekunst, and I do think he's done some good things, but like let me be clear, like it is confusing what they're up to, like they're, I don't know.
So I'm loving this. I'm loving this. This is like hot takes.
I guess I don't mean to be hot. I just think it's like, I think it's like, I just think it comes down to like, you have to play the entire team. It's not like basketball where you get 2 superstars and you're in contention for like the Western Conference Finals, like it's not like that. You need a defense. You need to stop the run. You need to stop the pass, especially if you have Aaron Rodgers. You need to stop the pass because the only way, it's got to be complementary, right? Like you got to stop the pass. You can't leave Aaron Rodgers on the sideline. He can't win that.
That's amazing. Cynthia, honestly, I could talk to you for ages and ages and ages, but we're going to let you ride off into the sunset. But can you tell people where to find you, your Insta and your Twitter, so forth?
So my Insta is just my full name, Cynthia Frelund. It's Frelund. Very confusing last name. Trust me. And Twitter just @CFreeland. And you know what's funny is last year we did a segment that aired, gosh, it was on Sky Sports somewhere. I can't remember which show it was on. But this year, with whatever constraints, I did one in Australia. So I cheated on you guys and I was in Australia instead. But maybe next year we'll go back to Sky with my stuff,
Yeah, well, let's do that.
You've got to promise us that you're going to come back on before the season starts.
Yeah,
because we
We'll
know
do a
who's
draft
moved around. We'll do a draft and all those types of things. So
perfect.
we promise we will bother you until you come back on again.
Absolutely. Thank you for being flexible with me with time. I know I made it difficult. I had, my off season is very short, so
no worries.
Nah,
No worries.
yeah,
Don't worry about
you're
it.
fine. You're
fine
family now.
We're back to work next week. Back to work next week. So
of course, like I said, I'll be sending you that United jersey. Don't worry about that.
Please don't.
Perfect.
Please don't. Please, Cynthia. Please. I please
There's
don't.
There's no please. There's no please, mate.
Okay, Packers fan. Okay,
Exactly.
Packers fan.
Okay.
Just many. Right. Okay. So remember to obviously keep an eye out for Cynthia coming back on Alternative Sport
You got
on YouTube and virginmagazine.co.uk. We will have her back, but until then, we will be counting down for the draft now. We're
That's the agency first. The new year, the new year the league starts. Right, like a month from today. Actually, a month from today.
That is true. All right, we're definitely going to be bothering you again to come back on and talk.
Perfect.
That's for sure. You
All right,
talked
let's
yourself
go for
into
some
it
fun.
now.
Free agent fun.
Let's do it. Until then, we'll see you guys next time. Peace.